The two most prominent Trinis in the global media right now are both famous for their support of a figure so equally ridiculous and evil that future students of history might have a hard time believing that he was not fictional. They are now joined by two other Trinis in the global media. These two are now deceased, but they had names: Chad Joseph and Rishi Samaroo. And these men, no matter what spin you try to put on it, and no matter what you might try to find in their lives to justify it, had their lives taken from them. And I just think that it's interesting that with all of these Trinis in the international media right now, we see the same exact issue running throughout. That is our relationship with authoritarianism and the different approaches that we usually see to such a figure. Submit to him, idolize him, or stand up to him. There's an interesting relationship between authoritarian government and authoritarian parenting. Both of them are characterized by this rigid, do as I say, not as I do approach. I have to acknowledge that authoritarian parenting is probably the most common style of parenting in the Caribbean. And there's so many reasons for that related to culture and history. We all know what happened in the 500 years since Columbus stepped foot on this land, right? They weren't gentle colonizing us. And perhaps related to that, the idea of something like gentle parenting now seems ridiculous to the collective imagination that has been cultivated for us. Research shows that people who grew up with authoritarian parenting are much more likely to vote for authoritarian political figures. Perhaps because it feels so familiar to them. Perhaps because they cannot conceive of leadership in any other way. So it's not shocking that some societies gravitate more towards figures like this than others. But if you are someone who has witnessed a person who bullies their family, you will know that there's not only one way that family members react to this. Yes, a lot of times they stay quiet and just kind of go along. They act as if everything is okay and the situation is totally normal. And sometimes you might see that the victim of such a bully develops a coping mechanism where they fawn over the abuser. They might even come to identify with and worship him or her. And then, in some cases, you will see the abused rebel against the abuser. This can be something as simple as using their words to call out what is being done. To say, I see what you are, and it is not acceptable. Sometimes it means physically putting yourself in the way to protect someone else from being punished. But whatever form it takes, standing up to the authoritarian figure is powerful because it kind of breaks the spell for everyone involved. This person is not in fact invincible and may actually be kind of pathetic. And at the societal level, we can see how all of these different responses to authoritarianism have been employed throughout our history in the Caribbean. So all of this is to say there's a reason I always talk about both the big picture issues as well as the personal things that give shape to people's lives. One is usually a reflection of the other, right? And if we were really serious about addressing some of these structural things like crime, we would simultaneously work on our building blocks. Anyway, that's a lot of work, and I guess it's easier to rant about your enemies on social media. Maybe eliminate a couple of innocent people to send a message. I hate this timeline.